Hi, and welcome to today's Your Author program brought to you by the Los Angeles Public Library. My name's Crystal Noe, and I'm the children's librarian from the Little Tokyo branch, and I'm here with my colleague, Rita Law, the children's librarian from the Chinatown branch.
Hello, everyone. It's our pleasure to host you for your author series today. Please feel free to use the chat box to communicate your thoughts, comments, and questions anytime. Also, please email ecdept@lapl.org. That's the Exploration and Creativity Department at losangelespubliclibrary.org to be entered into an opportunity drawing to win the book that Mike Curato, our esteemed author, illustrated. It's called What If?
Mike has won several awards for his acclaimed Little Elliot series, which has been translated into over 10 languages. He received the Founders Award from the Society of Illustrators Original Art Show in 2014 and has worked with Trudy Ludwig, Margarita Engle, Eric Carle, and many more. In addition to being a children's literature luminary, Mike is also a connoisseur of cupcakes and ice cream.
I love that. We want to thank our generous donors, the Lenore S and Bernard A. Greenberg Fund, and the Library Foundation for helping the library bring this amazing author and illustrator program to you, and all of them. Today, we have the pleasure of hosting this children's and young adult author and illustrator, Mike Curato.
Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today. It's such a delight to have you here to get to know more about you, your creative process, and your work bringing to life the book, What If, which you will be sharing with us today. Yay.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I wish we could all be, together in person, but I'm so glad we can make this happen. I also want to give a big digital hug and shout out to Samantha Berger, who wrote What If, who I spy with my little eye is online right now watching us.
Yay!
Yay, Samantha Berger. So now the pressure's on because I will read this book, but no one reads this book like Samantha Berger reads this book. So hi, Sam. So should I begin with the reading right now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, everybody. I'm going to share my screen here. And here we go. What If? Written by Samantha Berger, illustrated by me, Mike Curato. Samantha dedicated this book for everyone who is compelled to create no matter what. And I dedicated this book for Sarah Jane and Julia, my artistic soulmates who continue to inspire me to create. What if? With a pencil and paper, I write and draw art to create many stories that come from my heart. But what if that pencil one day disappeared? I'd fold up the paper till stories appeared. And what if that paper was no longer there? I'd chisel the table and then carve the chair. And what if there wasn't a chair here at all? I'd chip and I'd peel at the paint on the wall. And what if there wasn't a wall anymore? I might build a story from boards in the floor. Without any floor, I could still use the land and sketch out a tale in the dirt with my hand. I could still shape the leaves. I could still sculpt the snow. I could still plant the flowers and make kingdoms grow. Without any land, I would still use the light, invent shadow stories the sun would ignite. If there was no light, I would still use my voice to sing out my stories, to chant and rejoice. I'd still have my body to twist and to bend, to dance out my stories beginning to end. If I had nothing, but still had my mind, there'd always be stories to seek and to find. If I know nothing but one bit of fate, as long as I live, I will always create. As long as I live, I will always create. We'll talk about this part later. The end.
Yay.
Thank you. We loved that. That was so beautiful.
Thank you so much. Here's a fun thing that's happening right now because it's a live digital happy COVID time event. Someone's ringing my doorbell repeatedly.
Oh no.
Can you hear that? No?
I can't hear it actually.
Okay.
No.
I will just hope they leave whatever they're bringing. Well, thanks so much for listening to our story.
No, that was so beautiful. So we'd like to, yes, we were thinking of beginning this Q&A portion with you about the song, about the book, What If? We'd love to hear about the illustrations that you drew. Can you tell us a little bit about the title of the book and how it relates to your illustrations?
Sure. Well, of course, Samantha came up with the brilliant title. And the title, I think, is about possibility and the connection between possibility and creativity. You know, and I mean, the story says it all, right? Like, as long as you have your mind, there will always be stories to seek and to find, right? So even though our heroine has all these things taken from her, she's always finding a way to adapt and create. And it is about asking yourself that question, what if, when you're faced with an obstacle? So if you run into a roadblock, you know, you can just ask yourself, well, what if I tried something different than the thing that's not working right now? So yeah, it's definitely something I I ask myself more since working on this book. Yeah, and I hope that that title and the book inspires people to create more. Because and you asked about the illustrations, and I think it's relevant to bring up that actually I did have something I wanted to share. There was a picture I wanted to share. Oh, am I still screen sharing?
Not at this second, but
Okay.
let me see. We can.
Let's see.
We can always share that a little bit later if you would like.
Here we
Oh,
go.
wait, maybe he can try again. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, something weird was happening there. Okay.
Yeah, didn't go through.
So here's Samantha and me, besties.
Oh,
Here's us as kids. And here's a picture that I wanted to share. These are fashion illustrations that Samantha actually made. So that page that I skipped in the back of the book, for those of you who haven't read the book yet in person, it talks about the inspiration for Samantha writing this book. And basically, she was flooded out of her apartment and stayed with friends for a very long time. So she didn't get to bring a lot of things with her from her place, including her art supplies. Sam also loves to make art. And so she started making art out of found objects. So she still found a way to create. And you can see she's used broken Christmas ornaments and shredded paper and broken CD and flowers and food, all sorts of stuff. So that was really the inspiration for me to illustrate the story using mixed media. And, you know, this book was a bit of a departure for me because if you've seen my Little Elliot books, I usually work with pencil and digital color. So this was something kind of different for me, which was really fun. And here are some examples of a process of making one of the illustrations. So before I create a final piece, I do a really rough sketch. It's just an idea. The idea is the most important part of your drawing, I think. So here is my idea, and this is it in action. So I filled this box with dirt and marbles, and that became a solar system. And I scanned in these drawings and photographs of cotton and wood. And that is a bowl that you can see my reflection in. So I'm hidden in this story as well on this page. We'll let it play one more time. Oh, just so you can see it. So for me, this whole experience of making this book was a creative challenge to say, what if I used this thing to make an illustration with, or that thing to make an illustration with. And I think, I don't know, it was just like really fun. And it was something I'd never done before. Here's another example of the sketch. And then you'll see I scanned in a bunch of stuff like dried leaves. But I actually made this in the springtime when there were no dried leaves. So word to the wise, you can purchase dried leaves online. Get anything online these days. So I scanned in all these leaves and I used an art program called Photoshop to arrange this dragon and a bunch of other things like sugar and marshmallows to make this winter scene, glitter. There that goes. And incorporated the drawing with textures to make our friend here. Yeah. So yeah, there's a little about the illustration work.
I'm so impressed. I'm a fan. I forgot I was in this in this moderation situation. But wow, that was lovely. Thank you for showing us that process. And I had no idea that, like, I'm so glad that you showed us those little details, like that stainless steel bowl on top of was it the rocket ship? I never noticed that. Like, I'm
super tiny. You can't really see it unless someone points it out.
Wow.
I think, but.
Yeah, that was amazing. The step-by-step walkthrough is really, thank you for doing that.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Okay, so the next question is, well, we both love the book What If, and I'm from the comments. It sounds like many other people enjoyed it while you're reading it too. But is there a particular part of this book that was your favorite or just special to you?
I mean, they're all my babies. I will point out, let's go back to share screen here. So this image has a lot of Easter eggs. I don't know. Oh, you can't really see my cursor here, but on that shelf, you can see there's a Little Elliot doll. And then to the right of that globe is my childhood best plushy friend, that is Ricky Raccoon, making a little cameo. Also on that same shelf, see all those like rainbow colored books. Those were mine when I was a kid, and the bookends too. So those are pretty special. Then on the bottom shelf, you can see in the background, there's a picture of a dog. That's my dog, Leia. And next to her is a portrait of two of my best friends, Randy and Tamika, out in Seattle. And then on that shelf there, you can see lots of books that I have in my personal library. And then on the carpet there, the Legos I borrowed from Jarrett Krasoska's kids, who has written many books, like the Lunch Lady series and Hey Kiddo. Yeah, what else is in there? And one of Jarrett's kids made a drawing that's on the upper right. I think I drew the pegacorn, and then behind it is some fabulous creature, and that is Jared's kid's drawing. Yeah, and I love her magical saddle shoes on the bottom right. Let's see, I'm just gonna kind of breeze through here and see if there's any. I mean, I love this spread. This was maybe my favorite to work on. Just putting all this fun stuff in here. And this page was really inspired by Janelle Monáe, who is an amazing performer. And these moves were kind of inspired by her music video for Tightrope. You can see our friend here has this cool, like, modern tux look, and she's working it. And yeah, so definitely some Janelle Monáe vibes there. This piece is interesting. It's not like, I tried to vary the mediums from page to page. So this is a woodblock print, and Samantha, as a present, I gave Samantha the actual woodblock. So it is, I believe, sitting in her bedroom. Yeah, anything else? The shadow there, those are my hands. Someone took a photo of my hands casting a shadow for this picture, so that's kind of interesting. And this is just one of my faves, just because I love all the flowers. Yeah, and this quick story, I had to rebuild that igloo a few times because it kept falling over. It's just made out of sugar cubes and marshmallow fluff. And if you're ever trying to make a sugar cube igloo, my advice is to say, what if I put something on the inside to hold this up? So I used a clear Tupperware and then built around that to keep its shape. And I kept it after I photographed it, I kept it in the refrigerator in a tin for the better part of a year until the book was printed, because I didn't want to have to rebuild it if something went awry and we had to reshoot it for whatever reason. So, yeah, it was a real igloo in the cold of my refrigerator for a while. Yeah, and this one has the bowl with the reflection of me taking the photograph, which is kind of funny. Samantha loves pointing that out to people. Yeah, and this one, actually, I did a sample for the book before we got started to make sure we were heading in the right direction with the art style. And this isn't that far off from the original. So this is the image that really set the tone for the visual style of the book. And this, oh yeah, the wood shavings on the bottom of this page came from two special places. So one, I was on a trip doing an event in Alaska in Ketchikan, and I got to tour a master carver's studio, and they carve totem poles, and I was able to purchase a small bag of carvings from one of their totem poles, and some of them are scattered in there. I think those are the big chunks you see, and then the lighter, smaller chunks of wood actually came from my dear friend Cecily's work studio. She was working in a furniture design company, and she sent me some of her wood scraps. So there's some fun hidden stories in there too. And this, oh my goodness, origami, so difficult for me. It's so precise, and I am actually maybe not the most precise person. And Samantha and I have a dear mutual friend, Christine, and Christine and I were trying to fold origami for days, and eventually I got the hang of it. But did you also know that origami designs are copyrighted? So unless it's like a traditional fold, like the ones in the back are pretty traditional origami patterns. But trying to make my own pegacorn, I had to kind of like fiddle with designs, and that's not like true origami that she's holding because it's more than one piece of paper, but I never called it origami in the story. So yeah, and I don't know, this one's just cute, I guess. So anyway, I've kind of gone pretty far with that one, but those are some of the secrets of my illustrations.
Well, as you said, they're all your babies. So, and this really demonstrated that every artwork that you create is special. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
You know, the next question I was going to ask is, how do you create the narratives and characters? But I think you talked a little bit about that already. And you showed us that they were all inspired by kind of real life people. So, Crystal, I think we can move on to your question, which is, go ahead.
Crystal? Oh, Crystal, did you have a question?
Why don't you...
audio?
Maybe she can't hear me. You know what, I'll ask.
Okay.
Because you already touched on it a little bit in your previous question. I'm just going to jump ahead. Can you share with us a little bit about your writing and drawing workspace? Whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
And what makes your space unique? And is there anything that you have, like Lucky Charms or anything around you that you need to be able to work?
Well, I've lots of Lucky Charms and friends, I guess. I'll try to tilt this is my desktop, so it's a little cumbersome to move around, but if I tilt up here, you can see my bookshelf. It's got lots of different stuff on it. And so I've got like action figures. So you can see SpongeBob there. And of course my books. I need my book inspirations. Let's see if I can shift this. It's a little bit, well, it's not too bad. Here's my desk, and you can actually, that's a sneak peek at a book that I'm working on. That's secret. We haven't even announced it yet. So yeah, that's what I'm up to these days. And what else? I usually have pictures of friends nearby. Here's someone familiar. There's Samantha and me from the before times when we could be in person together in photo booths. Yeah, this is actually a new place I just moved into just a few months ago. So like I'm just kind of getting into my groove in the workspace. But there is also this awesome balcony just off of the workspace, so I can go out and have a think. Although I just got a lot of snow the other day, so it's going to be a little while, I think, before I hang out there again.
Thank you for sharing that with us. I loved seeing your desk and the way that you displayed everything so that you're keeping track of everything that you're already working on. So you know the next steps you need to. That's very organized. That's
I try. I'm not always so organized, but whenever I'm working on a book, I make sure to have, this is actually larger than I usually do. Usually I just do like one sheet of paper with thumbnails of all of the pages so I can kind of see things at a glance. And then I update the images as I finish them. But now I'm trying this system, now that I have this awesome new giant corkboard, of just pinning up all of the spreads in the state that they're in so that I can see the full book kind of coming to life and making sure that everything's harmonious.
perfect. That's good that we kind of got an idea of your mental process too. Clear mind, clear workspace.
Well, that's part of it. It's a yin and yang situation where things get really, really messy, and then I organize until it's clear, and then I let it all get messy again, and it's the circle of life.
I understand.
Yeah.
So you are both a picture book author and an illustrator, and now a YA graphic novelist.
Yes.
How do you adjust your thought process between those two worlds? And is there someone you think about writing to, a specific target audience or person when you're creating?
Well, let's see. So thinking about mindset, I think it's more important to remember that creating a story is creating a story, no matter what the genre, and having certain key elements in whatever you're working on. So with story making, I think there needs to be an element of truth to it, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Something that speaks to the heart is usually what I try to tap into. And this is not especially unique. A lot of people do this, but I think it's important to, this kind of segues into your next question, like think about, why you're making this book. But the thing is, I don't always know why I'm making a book. It's about the discovery, the journey to figuring out what a book is about. So it really begins with just kind of following compulsions. There's always something internally driving me to make something, And I just kind of have to trust that instinct of like, okay, I don't know why I need to draw this small elephant with dots, but I do, and we're gonna see where he takes me. And then it comes together, and in that moment, once you realize like, I see, yeah, I think I get what this is about, then it's kind of like branding, right? Like you just need to make sure like you're coming back to the story, coming back to the point of why you're making it. But as far as audience is concerned, I don't usually have a specific audience in mind. I try to focus on making a good story, and then editorial and marketing and I talk about like who would like this story. Maybe the exception being Flamer, my new graphic novel, which I very much had in mind queer questioning youth. So I mean that's the book that I wish I had when I was a kid. So I did have them in mind for sure when I was making this book. So that one was kind of different. And of course, when I illustrated Worm Loves Worm by J.J. Austrian, that is, of course, very queer family oriented, but really all family oriented. It's just a very inclusive book for lots of folks to enjoy. So, yeah.
Thank you.
And both of those are excellent too. So if you haven't read them, you please pick them up and read them.
I conveniently have books here. Here's Flamer.
That's Flamer. Yeah.
Here's Worm Loves Worm.
Yeah. I have Worm Loves Worm over there and Flamer over
there. The whole family.
So I was going to ask this question, but the audience also wanted to know, has being in quarantine changed your work habits, your writing habits, anything like that?
Well, what has changed with work? This past year has been very weird. And I actually wasn't very productive during the beginning of the pandemic. And I think that's okay. I think most of us kind of needed some time to adjust and take care of ourselves. I was also in the process of a lot of big life changes, and I was selling my house and moving, which was really stressful during this time. And so now that the dust is settled and I have my workspace again, production has been back up and running, now that I'm kind of used to the COVID way of life. So yeah, I mean, I have my dog, so she keeps me on a bit of a routine where it's like, okay, well, I'm up at this time, we go for a walk, come back. So yeah, I think Leia's walks are the consistent parts of my life, but I'm also a Pisces, which means I'm very, like go with the flow, and I can be kind of all over the place. And I actually do work at night a lot. There's something about that time that I guess gets the creative juices flowing for me. But I've been trying to be better about incorporating some daytime scheduling for work as well. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything different. I mean, one thing that's annoying is not really getting to go to the art store like I used to. My local art store kind of closed. So the branch in my town closed, but so it's all just centrally located in one of their in the last branch that they have, I guess.
Oh.
So it's like, oh, okay, that's not like a walk to the art store anymore, which was cute. But yeah, they're still around. Yeah, everything is just a little bit slower, I think.
So have you had to use your existing art supplies or go somewhere else?
Oh, I figured it out. They're open again, like limited hours, limited people. If I've had to, I can order things online.
That's true.
Yeah, and just as What If has taught us, like we can get creative with what we have to work with. Yeah.
That's
So, and actually, I think the biggest work difference for me is not being able to do things like this in person because, before the pandemic, I would travel a lot and do events like this in person. And, but we've all pivoted to digital stuff. So and that's been cool in a way because it's kind of more inclusive, right? So people can join from anywhere instead of just people who can make it in person.
Thank you for sharing with us. Is there anything that you can say about your next project?
What I will share is a book that's coming out next year, which has been announced, and I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm very excited because it is another book with Samantha Berger called The Sharing Godmother. And this is kind of like What If in that it's for the illustrations because it's all mixed media again. But that's our friend Sherry in the foreground there. And yeah, it's just all about the beauty of sharing. And I'm really excited to have another book with Sam out. So that'll be out in the spring. And then, yeah, the other stuff I have to keep secret for now, but I will hopefully be able to share it very soon.
Wow. And Samantha Berger responded with, "Hey,
hey. Yes, yeah. It was so great that we got to work together again, and hopefully we'll get to make many more books together.
More fun times.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait to read that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Samantha, in the notes section, it sounds like you both are really had a blast working together, and because you both are friends. But are there any words of wisdom you can offer any young creative minds watching when it comes to collaborative projects?
Well, what do I want to share about collaboration? I think it's important to, I guess I could reference back to what I was saying before, like even just working on my own, I'm always trying to reference back to why I'm making something or trying to at least tap into that feeling of what's compelling me to make something. Mm-hmm. So if you're working as part of a team, I think it's important that your team agrees on what is driving you both to make something and to honor that, right? So everything, all the decisions that you make go back to why did we decide to do this? Yeah, and having trust, right? Like Samantha and I have complete trust in each other's creative process. So if one of us tells the other, like, I really think, we should maybe think about this direction, then that's something that the other one really considers and takes to heart. So yeah, we definitely look out for each other. So I think that those are the two things I'd recommend.
That's true. It helps to work with a friend and you understand each other's processes and what you like and don't like. Yeah, that's great. Now, we'd like to move the conversation and let the audience have a chance to ask you some questions. So we will start taking questions now. If you're curious about anything from Mike, please let us know in the comments on YouTube, and we will ask them for you. Oh, and we would like to start off with Celia's question. She had a question about Flamer. I'll just read it out loud. Flamer is such a beautiful graphic novel. What was your thought process like in creating it? And will you be writing and illustrating more graphic novels?
Well, quick answer, yes. I definitely want to write / illustrate more graphic novels. And I'm working on some ideas right now. So stay tuned on that. But and now I've forgotten the first part of the question. So my thought process behind creating it. I mean, I started writing this book a really long time ago, maybe like 2010 or 11.
Wow.
Is when I had the idea. And a graphic novel is so overwhelming. Just the thought of making like, some like giant book where it's like, oh my God, not only do I need to write a giant book, but then I have to illustrate this gigantic book. I don't know, like, okay, this is cute. Like I'll write down these ideas, but I don't know if this is really going to happen. So, I mean, what it ended up starting out as was a collection of memories and experiences that I wanted to share. Because there, I saw a lot of things happening at the time and still today that happened to me when I was a kid in the 90s. We've made a lot of progress, but not enough progress. And queer youth are still at a much higher risk of homelessness, self-harm, suicide, big scary things that we need to talk about. So that's kind of where the impetus for this came from, was, working through things that I experienced, but kind of using it to validate what other people are going through or have already gone through. So yeah, a lot of it was writing down memories and then kind of filtering it through this world that I started to create, and through this character, Aiden. And I need to give another shout out to Samantha, because she was really there for me when I was writing this. She was one of the few people who read my first, I don't even know if I can call it a manuscript, because it was like a bunch of pieces of things kind of stitched together roughly. And then I went on a writing retreat. I went to go visit her and stayed for a week, and she gave me amazing advice. And that week was really when everything really came together with the story. And I was like, okay, this is what I'm doing. And then my agent sold it not long after. So anyway, but again, what drove me to make it was an uneasy feeling, right? Just knowing that things are still happening that shouldn't be happening, and that people still feel marginalized or hurt. And I want them to know, like, that they deserve to be here, and that their experience is valid, and that their voice is important. So that's what I kept going back to when I was working on the story.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. I really enjoyed Flamer. Just when
Thanks.
I put down the book, I had to take a moment and gather all my feelings because there were so many like coursing through me. It's an incredible story, and if you haven't read it, please check it out from the library, buy it, do whatever you need, and get that into your hands. It's so good. Like we do have some other questions, like should we continue our Flamer conversation? Like, how did it feel to put so many personal experiences in there for everybody to read?
A little unsettling. And just to clarify, because some people have thought that Flamer is a memoir, but it is a work of fiction. But yes, it is based on a lot of my personal experience. So yeah, it was kind of jarring to put it out there. And I don't really talk about like, oh, this happened, that didn't happen very often in the book publicly. But I do say in the afterword, you know, here's a spoiler alert / trigger warning, is that there is suicidal ideation in the story. And that was something that I was challenged with as a teenager. And I think it's important for me to be honest about that part of my life, because I think it's something that a lot of people experience. But, you know, I decided to hang out, and yeah, I hope that other people can see that and know that there's someone who understands. There are a lot of us who understand. And there are also resources in the back of the book that people can leverage, like the Trevor Project. They have great resources for supporting queer youth, and they also have a suicide prevention program. They have a 24-hour hotline, and it's trevorproject.org if you want any information about them.
Thanks for sharing that. Crystal?
Yeah, sure. Actually, we had 2 questions by the same person, and it's do you illustrate for writers you don't know? And how do you select a topic to write about?
So yeah, Samantha is the only author that I knew before illustrating their story. So Trudy Ludwig, J.J. Austrian, Margarita Engle. I didn't know them at all when I agreed to illustrate their books. The publisher is they're the ones who first purchased the manuscript. So, you know, the author comes first in the book deal. Mm-hmm. Usually, usually there needs to be a story first. Sometimes there's artwork first and then a story, but usually an author will sell a manuscript, and then the publisher will think about, you know, who the best pick would be to illustrate that story, to make sure that the artwork, you know, gels with the story. So yeah, I'll get manuscripts sent to my agent, and then she and I will review them and decide if it's for me. So yeah, I haven't illustrated all the manuscripts that have come past me. I mean, it's not that some of those stories weren't good. It was just that I don't think I'm the right person, is usually what it's about. And it's also, you know, a matter of timing. Sometimes I have other things going on, and that's a lot of time to dedicate. So I try to only take on projects that I know, like, this is something that I'm in love with and I want to spend the next, you know, 6 months of my life working on and then have to promote for a very long time. So yeah, there's a little bit about that. And then what was the other question?
The other question was, how do you select a topic to write about?
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned before, and I can expand. I don't usually know what the topic of the story is going to be. Flamer is kind of an exception to that. But for example, when I first created Little Elliot over here, I didn't know. I was illustrating these pictures of this elephant, and I didn't know what it was about. And it's not to say that I illustrated the whole book and then was like, now words. That's also what did not happen. But basically, it was just trying to figure out, like, why am I making these? And someone said something to me about the images that really clicked. And they said, I love how little this elephant is in this big city. Like, that's what you should call it, something like Little in the Big City. And I was like, oh my God. And it jogged this memory of me being very small in a deli, running an errand for my mom, like to go get cold cuts or something. And, I lived in the suburbs of New York. So like the deli counters were like really tall and I was so short, and the person behind the counter couldn't even see me, like trying to place an order. And all these grown-ups were like cutting me off. It's an assumption, right, that kids don't have purpose sometimes, that they're just taking up space or something. But I was like, I'm here and I have something to do. And it took a while for someone to actually like recognize, like, do you need something? And so that then I understood. Well, first of all, I was like, oh my God, I know what I'm going to do with the story. And then there was this scene of Elliot trying to get a cupcake and he couldn't get one because they couldn't see him. And then he meets his friend Mouse, who's even smaller, who puts everything in perspective for Elliot. So for me, I finally understood once the story was working. I was like, this is a story about visibility, about feeling like you're a part of this world. And, children are so often overlooked and can feel so invisible. And I think that's something that we've all experienced as children and continue to experience as adults sometimes, this world. I mean, I think everyone has felt at some point this year, like, like I don't have control over anything, and I have no voice. I'm powerless. So and then it becomes this universal theme that it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I get what this story is about. So to answer your question, I don't pick a topic. The topic picks me.
I love that. So mystical.
Yes.
Let's see. Perhaps we will end that portion, the Q&A, right now, and we're going to go into just some quick other get to know you questions from that we just want to call rapid fire questions as a fun way to end the program. It's for me, I crafted some questions that were like this or that, so you can choose what you like.
Okay.
Are you a coffee or tea person? What keeps you? Oh, tea. Very good. Okay. I noticed on your Instagram that Do you like to bake? Do you prefer baking or cooking? I did my research.
I mean, these days baking. I would say that I usually cook more than I bake, but something has happened because I eat a lot of baked things. I don't usually make the baked things, but now I kind of have this fantasy, right? Because COVID planning, I'm like, okay, now that I'm gonna be stuck inside by myself for a very long time, what am I going to do to bring myself joy? And so I'm like, I want to live my Great British Bake Off fantasy, and just bake every week, like pick a really cool recipe and just do it. So these days, my life's been very baked goods centered. I just made a flourless chocolate cake yesterday that I'm really proud of because I've never successfully made meringue before.
Wow.
And you have to make that to fold into the batter. So I was like, look at me.
That's really impressive. It's hard to do that with, it is. So thank you for letting us see a glimpse into your kitchen life. And this is not really an or question, either or, but what's the last thing you read that you loved? Can you make a quick book recommendation for us?
Oh my God. I just read a whole bunch of graphic novels, and I can't think of the sequence. But I will say very recently I read Dragon Hoops by Jean Yang, and the book was a triumph in that it got me to read a book about basketball, which is impressive because I'm very much not a sports person. But I guess that was kind of was interesting to me was that Jean wasn't a basketball person and then made this book. And I was like, that's interesting, like, what if? What if you were not interested in something and then made a book about it and made an amazing book about it? That was so cool. So Jean really knocked my socks off because it was just really solid storytelling, and I was enthralled, and I learned a lot about basketball that I didn't know. So there's a lot of heart in it, but there's also some cool like nonfiction stuff in it. Yeah, good job, Jean.
Wonderful.
So I had a few too. So what was your favorite origami, or what is your favorite origami thing to make? Even though you said you're really bad at it.
I mean, what can I do? I need the instructions in front of me. It's not like I'm a master at it now or anything at all. I could probably make one of those like newspaper hats that I can do from my memory. But I did really like making the stars that are hanging in the background. I was like, oh, these are cute. That pegacorn, I never want to have to make that ever again.
That was a once in a lifetime thing.
It was a nightmare. I still have it somewhere. I should have tried to dig it out for you, but I think it's in the basement.
Well, it was beautiful, and we have to suffer for our art sometimes, right?
No, yeah. You gotta be dedicated. And I was just like, it's just one spread. I just need to do one spread of origami, and then we can move on. But wow, did I get some paper cuts, and did I have to redo every single one of those things? Yeah. So here's a great illustration tip. A lot of the artwork you see in books, pick a page, any page. I bet it's not the first time the illustrator made that thing you're looking at. It's very possible that they made it over and over and over until it looked right. So sometimes you strike gold, or sometimes you are like a true master. And I don't know. I can just picture like Arnold LaBelle be like, done, and it's perfect. It's like, oh, okay.
And then before we wrap up and close this up, my last quick question is your go-to karaoke song.
Oh, I mean,
Let's hear
I
it.
do have a few. There is a short list, but Samantha could even tell you the short list. I Say It Ain't So by Weezer, one of my all-time faves at karaoke.
Yeah.
Love singing What's Up by Four Non Blondes. Love a good Nirvana song.
Yeah.
Very like grunge is kind of my wheelhouse.
Well, we're 90s babies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also an occasional show tune.
Right. Well, yeah.
You know, like a little number from Chicago.
Oh, that's so fun.
Bagam, bagam, bagam.
I love it.
Well, yeah. Thank you. And all of those were excellent selections, by the way. So thanks for sharing. All right. So now we're going to, I think, wrap up. So thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation with author, illustrator, artist, karaoke king, Mike Curato. Our next Your Author program is Friday, January 8th at 4 p.m. with youth author Sonia I'm going to butcher this, and I practiced it. Portra. I'm so sorry. But you can find it on the online events calendar. She's a former reporter for People magazine. Sona has also contributed to publications such as Cosmopolitan and the New York Times, in addition to writing acclaimed young adult fiction. She is founder of Cake Literary, a media and content company dedicated to promoting diverse voices in literature. When not writing, Sona pokes plot holes in her favorite teen dramas and shows off her children and chai on Instagram. Those attending this virtual program will have the opportunity to win a free book there too. So.
Wonderful. So yeah, Mike, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. And for everybody watching still, we hope that you'll join our winter reading challenge at lapl.org/winter, which is that link right there. And also check out the Code for Change challenge as part of our winter reading activities. Today's program counted as one of the activities that you could do, not for the Code for Change, but for the winter reading challenge. And that goes on until January 9th of 2021. So you have plenty of time to read still and to log activities for some really great prizes. Thank you so much to all of the audience too for asking your great questions, or some that we didn't even get around to. And thank you, Samantha Berger, for dropping in and being really excited. She also made a comment about the pig of corn being very magical. So we appreciate that.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for having me.
And if I haven't mentioned it, you can still email ECDEPT, the Exploration and Creativity Department at lapl.org, for an opportunity drawing to win the book What If, which Mike shared at the beginning of our program today. So it's a beautiful book with a lot of creative details. Don't miss out. Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.